Hey Grim listeners, last episode we announced the launch of the Grim Curriculum Twitch channel. The date of the first stream is going to be September 15th at 2 p.m. MST, so stay tuned and make sure you follow us on twitch.tv/the Grim Curriculum. Spooky season is in full swing here in Edmonton, Alberta already.
I know. Did you see what happened at the corn maze?
Yeah, I love the corn maze too.
So do I.
Well, hold on. I haven't been to the corn maze since I was maybe in grade 10.
It's been a few years for me for sure,
Yeah.
but I have very good memories. I've been a few times. I've been with friends. I've been at night. I've done the whole thing, and this honestly is something straight out of a horror movie.
It really is. So there was a murder at the Edmonton corn maze.
Yeah, a gentleman was stabbed to death, and as more details come out, it turns out that the victim and the attacker were both on outings from the Alberta hospital, which, for those of you who don't know, is a mental hospital.
Yeah, so not a good day at the corn
No
maze.
kidding.
I'm still gonna go this year because I haven't gone in forever, and I'm going this year.
Yeah, absolutely. The corn maze, the Edmonton corn maze itself is a pretty fantastic place, all stabbings aside. I don't think they've ever had an incident like this before.
No.
So obviously very unexpected, but it is a fantastic place. Their corn maze, when viewed from an aerial view, is a different picture or theme every year, which is super cool. So if you are in the Edmonton area, definitely recommend checking it out. But just really sad and scary that this is kind of what's brought it up into the news lately.
Yeah, stay away from other people if you're there. Don't talk to strangers or people you know, apparently, because they knew each other.
Yeah, have a buddy system, you guys.
Yeah.
Oh, my Lord. Anyway.
Let's start the show, shall we?
Shall we?
Hello, everyone. I'm Dina.
And I'm Charlotte.
Welcome to the Grim Curriculum Extra Credit. We have a very special episode for you all today.
Yeah, we usually don't do them quite in this format, but this is a follow-up from a full episode we did. And as it turns out, there is a lot of new information coming out. So we thought, why not just do a full episode and get right into the nitty-gritty of it all?
That's right. We are doing an update on Wade Wilson. If you haven't listened to it already, episode 119 of the Grim Curriculum, we covered the Cape Coral Strangler, Wade Wilson, who just had his sentencing the other day. And it looks like he will be put to death.
I was, honestly, two things. I wasn't expecting to hear about it so soon. I kind of thought it would be dragged out for months and months. So I was a little shocked when it was like, boom, he's been sentenced to death. But I am not unhappy to hear this verdict.
Yeah, so we were actually supposed to get an answer about this back when we did the original episode. There was about probably a month or so delay.
Yeah.
It kept getting pushed back, and they have it up on Court TV if you want to watch it. I watched the entire thing. Again, I found out a lot of stuff I didn't know. And a lot of things that really, really shocked me. And we're also seeing a bit of a change in people's perception towards him now.
Interesting. I have caught a couple of tidbits just in my passing through various social media sites and whatnot, but I haven't delved too far into it because I wanted to get all the information from you today. So yeah, let's hear about it.
So for starters, he looks about the same.
Yeah.
Not sure how it would feel to be in his position. Because I can't even begin to imagine waiting to find out if you're going to be put to death. However, one thing I noticed is he's really trying to portray this tough guy persona. You know, he's doing the whole leaned far back, tough guy sit.
Yeah, very much man spreading while he's in court, trying to make himself look much bigger and much more relaxed. But when you look in those eyes, I don't think there's one iota of relaxation behind them.
No, and I'm going to talk a little bit about his body language because for starters, he has the tattoo of the smile or whatever the fuck you want to call it. So it's kind of hard to tell, but he is smirking almost the entire time.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
He's got this stupid douchebag smirk, and he is pretty calm throughout for the most part. But when they say that he is going to be put to death, He immediately, he has that smirk. He's looking around a lot.
Yes, that was the one thing I caught, is his eyes dart around, which to me was one of the first big signs of, hey, you are not as chill about this as you
No.
trying to
And the
appear.
darting eyes, he did that in the original trial. However, he doesn't do it until they say that he is being sentenced to death. Then he starts really darting the eyes. If you look at his eyes, they do go a little red. And to me, it's hard to say because he has like kind of like they're like half open, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you can see that little bit. And to me, that made me wonder, is he holding back some tears? Is he, what is the situation there? Because they do go from, kind of normal looking to that little bit of redness in the eyes.
It's a shame for him, obviously. I mean, I don't give a rat's ass really if he's sad or not. He should be, but when he obviously decided to have this very much tough guy persona, this very like hard exterior that doesn't seem to be phased or bothered by anything, that's a tough act to follow up on if you don't get the way you think you were going to get when you're in a trial,
Yeah.
because either A, everyone is going to be laser pointed in on you like we are and noticing all these little things, like it puts you under a lot more scrutiny. Or if you do finally break this tough guy exterior and burst into tears or whatever, he didn't burst into tears, but then it's like, so you were a fraud all along.
Yeah.
There's really no win-win here. So you may as well wear your heart on your sleeve.
The thing I also noticed too is when they start giving him the death sentence, that they're going through all of it, you can really see, if you look at his chest, he's breathing very heavy.
Yes.
And very fast.
Yeah. Very rapid.
The thing I found interesting though is immediately I went onto YouTube to see what everyone's saying about it. One of the first things I saw was a thumbnail that was like Wade Wilson's reaction to receiving the death sentence. And it's a picture of him. And then it's a picture of him holding up the middle finger. And it's made to look like that's what he did when he was sentenced. And I was like,
pretty,
hey, well,
like,
that didn't happen.
Clickbaity kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's another one where it says that, and then in like capital letters it says, "You won't send me to the chair." He didn't say anything.
No. He locked it down,
He locked it down. And the other thing that I noticed that he did is as soon as they were like, okay, we're done, he shoots up out of his chair and he goes. Like he wanted to get out of that courtroom very, very quickly. He can appeal this, so there will be an appeal. The state of Florida, the average time someone spends on death row is 10 to 15 years.
I was going to say, now, this is not a sentence that is going to be carried out even in the next year or two. Like, he will be able to appeal it for quite some time.
Yes.
People tend to sit on death row for a lot of years. And that can be, a pro or a con, depending on you're looking at it.
No, definitely. And the state of Florida has executed 105 inmates since they reinstated the death penalty in the 1970s. Oof. And there are quite a few people on death row already.
We talked about this a little while ago with a different inmate. Do we know if Wade will be subject to lethal injection or if they're going the
just being gassed to death?
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, no, it will more than likely be lethal injection. Okay. However, 15 years from now, that might change. Who can
say? Yeah, absolutely. Because with the lethal injections, like we have talked about before, the chemicals necessary to do that concoction are becoming less and less common due to the fact that pharmaceutical companies simply don't want them to be used for that purpose.
Yeah, exactly. So that might change. He may have the option of multiple forms of death. They may change it altogether by then. I say we honestly just feed him to a bunch of rats.
Yeah. Like I said, I am not displeased to see that this will be his outcome. Like you say, he does have the chance to appeal. I'm thinking Florida like you say, it's a long way out. So a lot can change in that. Laws can change in that time. Who knows? Like with what the presidential situation is going to be like, a lot will be changing in the next decade or so. I have no doubt in my mind. But all that aside, I hope he rots to death in prison if he doesn't make it to the execution chamber.
Yeah, absolutely. Few things I wanted to touch on is I do have a small correction I wanted to make.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So when we originally talked about him, the second murder, the one of Diane Ruiz, the way we talked about it, we made it sound like he saw her walking and ran her over.
Okay.
I rewatched the court stuff and what actually happened. And this is weird because it reminded me of Paul Bernardo.
Oh, gross.
He was driving. So basically, he killed Christine, the first victim.
Yep.
Then he went to go see his girlfriend
Oh my
because he did
God.
have a girlfriend at the time. She wouldn't go with him because he was like, come with me, we're going to go somewhere. And she was like, no. So he beats the absolute shit out of her.
Oh my God.
She manages to get away from him. And so he ends up just leaving.
Okay.
He sees Diane Ruiz walking and he calls her over to the car and asks her for directions.
Right.
He gets her in the car.
Yes.
And then she ends up giving him kind of directions. He starts strangling her when she starts to get out.
Probably as she turned her back to him. God damn.
Yep. So she ends up getting out, and that is when he runs her over.
Oh my God.
So the murder itself is a lot more premeditative than I had originally thought. I kind of thought he just saw her and ran her over, but he picked her up specifically.
They had a lot more interaction before it actually
very
happened.
much so. The one thing I found kind of interesting that doesn't necessarily surprise me is when he originally talked about killing Diane. He said he ran her over 10 to 15 times. That was not true.
Oh.
He multiple times in reports exaggerated
How
the crimes
vicious
themselves.
it was.
And okay, I actually have this here from the court. So he boasted to officers, I used my charm on her to stay in the car and then we had sex, consensual. And this is what I do with women, you know. I use my charm, use my good looks. That's what I did with the first girl and that's how I got in her head what happened to her. Same story because I just used my looks and I'm wrong for that. So that's him again bragging about the first crime.
Was it true that they did have sex or did that not even happen? Or are we not sure?
From what I'm seeing is with the second victim, he claimed that they had anal sex. And that turned out not to be true.
As far as we know, he invited her over to give directions. Obviously that was not his full plan.
Yeah.
But it seems weird that it would then escalate to sex.
It says here, this is point 41 from the court documents. Defendants claim that he had run Ruiz over 10 to 20 times also does not comport with the state of the body when it was found or the testimony. This too appeared to be an attempt by the defendant to boast or inflate the facts.
Awful.
So not only did he do terrible things, he wanted to make it sound like it was a lot worse.
Oh yeah, big man, big scary man. Like,
Yeah.
fuck you, dude.
Now, the other thing that I found about a week ago that was just horrific to read, and I don't recommend even looking for this. I don't recommend reading it. It was the police reports and testimonies filed by 3 different women who were sexually assaulted by him.
Before all this happened.
All of this happened.
Oh my God.
So not only is he a murderer, he is very much a serial rapist.
Well, quite frankly, he's giving, you mentioned Paul Bernardo, a lot of similarities there. I'm thinking like Danny Rawlings almost.
Very much so.
Just like utter hatred and violence. What the fuck?
Yeah, he very kind of similar MO all 3 times. He got them in their car or his car, whichever. He violently, anally, sexually assaulted them. Sometimes to the point of for up to like 3-4 hours.
That's friggin' awful.
And these victims saw essentially no justice. Like, and the thing is, we see this with Paul Bernardo. I'm going to use him as an example again. We have that escalation happen, and then the person eventually murders somebody. If things had been caught, well, the police had all the information that they needed, essentially. But if they had put him in jail for that, we would never be in this situation.
No, absolutely not. Because at least, I mean, we talked about his childhood and how he kind of went off the rails at a fairly young age anyway. He already had a record, so to speak. So it's not like even taking the first one seriously would have put him, in the system. He was already in the fucking system.
He was actually on probation when he committed the murders.
Exactly. Yeah. So there were things that should have occurred to stop this from happening.
Yes, absolutely. And it's very sad. The victims' families have spoken out, and it's honestly just tragic to know that for them, a member of your family, your loved one, in one of the cases, your mother, being murdered because nothing was done when this guy was already walking around and almost murdering other women.
Yeah, absolutely. And they reported it and weren't taken seriously, or they reported it and the information went nowhere.
Yeah.
God, that breaks my heart. And we talk about it all the fucking time.
Exactly.
I really wish we didn't have to keep talking about it, but it happens time and time again where things are missed or ignored, and this continues to happen. Now, luckily, he's in prison and he will be there for a good long time. Hopefully he never gets out. But
Yeah.
oh boy.
He will definitely appeal.
Of
Like
course,
I said, he has the right to one appeal, but I think that there's going to be more. He admitted that he killed them.
Yeah.
And there's phone records there. You can find the phone calls of him saying this to various people. One of his ex-girlfriends. She had actually had I think the police were on the other line when she called him.
Whoa.
Or she recorded it. But
Yeah.
either way, like, the police had full access.
Yeah.
And that's one of the phone calls that's available to the public now. Because again, all of this being in Florida, they have the Sunshine Law. So basically what that means is anything that's happening in court or with the police is public record.
Right.
So you have a plethora of information that you can look at. However, now he's kind of going back and saying, oh, it wasn't me. And there are still some defenders of him. There's quite a few. And one of the things that they're saying is there was none of his DNA on Diane Ruiz, or there was someone else present at the apartment when Christine was murdered. So they're trying to come up with ways to justify, like saying, oh, he actually didn't do this. It was somebody else. He's being wrongly convicted, but he said it was him.
Yes. Not only did he say it was him, he over-exaggerated his involvement in it.
Yeah.
Why lie like that?
Why?
Doesn't make any sense to me.
You're sentenced, bro. Sorry.
He's sentenced. Yes, he will appeal.
So the Wade Wilson subreddit is something I want to talk about.
Oh,
so
Lord.
In the description, it says, sign the petition to spare Wade Wilson from death. The subreddit has been almost completely taken over by people who do not support him. And it's hilarious.
Oh, I see. They're trolling.
Oh, very much so. So basically, at first, when we did the original episode, the subreddit was full of people being like, oh, he's cute. I love him. Right?
Yeah.
Now it's like, if you think this man is attractive, you're a fucking idiot. Or just lots of proof of the things that he has done.
Absolutely. Good. I love to see it.
It's actually hilarious. And it's funny to see how that's kind of been twisted. One thing that is on the subreddit that they share are some emails between him and women. Because when you email an inmate, all of that is also public record for the most part, depending on the state you're in.
Have mercy.
So these are, their names are available. The stuff that they're sending is available. And there's, they're basically like having various sexual conversations. And there's ones that he's sending out to them. And I was reading a few of them and I was just like, ew.
I even remember back in the day when I ran off and joined the army. I was at the army college in the UK, and we would get letters and stuff from our loved ones, usually our families or your boyfriends or your girlfriends or whatever. And they very specifically tell you, just so you all know, if you're getting little letters from your boyfriends and girlfriends, we open them and we read them first because it's a security issue.
Absolutely.
And you should have seen this. They kind of gave us this heads up like a week or so in. So most of us hadn't received any letters or anything yet because we'd only been there 5 minutes. But you saw a couple of people like their faces drop and be like, oh my God. And I guess there were some raunchy little letters going back between all those horny 16-year-olds. But yes, prison, government jobs, your shit is not... it's not for your eyes only.
No, definitely
it's for
not.
everybody's eyes.
Yeah, and honestly, he is still receiving a lot of support from women. I don't want to act like he's not, because there are a lot of them. When we covered Jodi Arias for part 2, we talked about how there is a fundraiser thing happening where she has $105,000 towards appeals. So they are currently fundraising to pay for his lawyers, to pay for all sorts of things. And I found something I wanted to share with you.
Okay.
So they call them donations. And this is stuff, it can go towards either his commissary or towards the lawyers, whichever. They have incentives.
Oh my, so it's like a Kickstarter.
Yep. So for $10 to $50,
Oh my
you
God.
get a story upload on Wade's official TikTok and Instagram, plus a raffle entry to speak with Wade.
Guys, this ain't Cameo. You ain't getting to talk to, like, I don't know, your favorite SNL host. Like, this is a murderer.
For $51 to $100, you get a thank you message from Wade and a raffle entry to speak to Wade.
I hate this because he does not give a shit about anybody.
$101 to $200, a thank you recording from Wade and a raffle entry to speak to Wade.
I'm starting to feel like we need to up our Patreon tiers or something. Like,
seriously,
Jesus.
$201 to $500, personalized thank you recording from Wade and a raffle entry to speak with Wade. For $501 to $1,000, you get a thank you phone call from him. And for donations of $1,001 and up, you get a phone call from him. And what there is just saying is Wade's personal present while supplies last.
I don't know what that is, and I don't think I want to know.
I don't want his
Wade's
personal
present? It sounds like he's going to send you a bag of poop.
Yeah. And they'd probably be happy about it.
They probably would. That is bizarre to me.
Yeah. So on the subreddit, a lot of people are just kind of trashing that. But that exists because people are sending him money.
Bonkers. It's come up a lot lately, obviously. I didn't realize you hear of the occasional serial killer, you know, like fucking Ted Bundy had all the fangirls, and even like Charlie Manson had all the fangirls and all this stuff. They're who I consider kind of the big hitters, if you will. Like their names are globally known, whatever.
Yeah.
I didn't realize so many sort of small timers also got this kind of treatment, and it's honestly kind of horrifying to see.
Well, the whole reason that all of this has happened is because of the reaction on TikTok. He was made famous on TikTok, essentially, and that's where everyone is supporting him, and that's where all of his fans are. He's got an official TikTok account that someone's running, and I feel like back in the day when we had Ted Bundy, for example, there would have been a Ted Bundy TikTok.
Oh, you're absolutely right. There for sure would have been.
This is just today's version of fangirling over serial killers. Because back in the day, all you could do was send a postcard or something like that. But nowadays, you can make 500 videos about why you think this person's wonderful when in reality, they're a sack of shit.
And we've talked about it a lot lately as well, how someone's appearance can really affect the treatment they get.
Yep.
Like pretty privilege is still a thing with serial killers, as it turns out.
So.
Because if Wade wasn't tall, considered fairly attractive, and have the prolific appearance that he has, he wouldn't really be getting any attention. If he was a short, balding, fat man, he would not be getting the attention that he's getting. But because of his appearance, here we are talking about it.
Absolutely. What's interesting to me is we're going to see if he fizzles out or if people keep paying attention to him, because Florida changed it a little while ago. Back in the day when you were on death row, you were essentially in solitary confinement for 23 hours out of the day.
Right.
That is no longer the case.
Okay.
So you can now have access to your commissary. You can have phone calls. You can have letters written to you, all of that kind of stuff. So he does have the ability to kind of stay quote unquote popular. So I'm curious to see if they're all going to still support him or if people are going to get bored and just move on.
He does have this attachment to certain Nazi organizations, white supremacist organizations in prison. So, you know, all other things aside, you're swanning around with some pretty sketchy dudes. There may be some kind of violence that takes him out well before he even gets the chance to appeal. Like, who can really say? I hope he just fizzles out and disappears, and maybe we'll hear about him every couple of years when he tries to appeal his sentence. But I'd really like to not hear about him ever again, to be honest.
Well, he did get his teeth knocked out.
That is true. You did tell me that the other day.
Yeah. And so
not everyone is a Wade Wilson fan in the penitentiary.
No, they are not. And it's like you mentioned, he's making some very powerful friends right now, but with that come very powerful enemies too.
Absolutely.
We saw this with Robert Pickton recently.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a prolific killer, who Wade Wilson unfortunately is now prolific in a lot of
Yep.
ways, you're gonna have people who want to take out the big guy because then they'll be well known for what they did.
Absolutely. And it may not even be a personal thing. It might not be like, hey, I'm her uncle, or,
Yeah.
something like that, which is a possibility. It can happen. But it like may be just like you say, you're famous. I want to be famous. I'm gonna take you out.
Yeah, and especially if it is someone else who has the same sentence as him, they don't
It
have
doesn't
anything to
change
lose.
anything. Exactly. So why not get your kicks while you're still there, I guess.
Absolutely. I mean, it could happen. I saw an interview with someone who is in touch with him regularly.
Okay.
He is apparently not doing well mentally, which does not surprise me at
No.
all. His biological father, in
Yes. I was gonna
particular,
ask about him. Yeah.
he has not spoken out yet. And I think right now everyone is just kind of coming to terms with it. The victims' families have, however, spoken out, and they're saying, you
Yes.
know what, we're very thankful for the amount of work that the lawyers have put
Mm-hmm.
in, the support of the police, and their dedication to making sure that they did get justice. And I really hope that at the end of the day, they do get justice. I don't necessarily support the death penalty, but I do believe that it exists for very specific people. And
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that Wade Wilson is one of those people.
As with all things, there's a time and a place, and it doesn't necessarily apply all the time. But yeah, there are specific circumstances where a person has made it very clear they cannot be among society
Yeah.
without being a menace to themselves and others. And whether that cost comes at life in prison and you never see a free day again,
Mhm.
or whether it is, the execution chamber.
Yeah, he just is someone who should not be around other people. He has been victimizing people for a very long
Mm-hmm.
time. We saw that with his ex-girlfriends who he assaulted. We saw that with women who he also sexually assaulted that he wasn't dating, attempted murders, and
Yeah.
then finally the two murders, and then him just trying to inflate himself further after committing those crimes. It just says a lot about the kind of person that he is.
100%. Had he not been caught, I don't think he would have stopped. I think he is the kind of killer where he must be stopped by an outward
Yes.
force. He's not the kind of guy that just goes, "Okay, I've had my fun, I'm done."
No.
There's no way.
Especially considering his crimes weren't, "Oh, I broke into someone's house and they were there, so I killed them." It wasn't
Mhm.
anything like that. It was, "I killed these women because I felt like it."
Yeah. And that to me is one of the scariest reasons you can have,
Yeah.
because it's so there is no rhyme or reason
No.
behind it. It's so spontaneous, and there's no target per se. It's just that you're in the wrong place at the wrong time when this wrong motherfucker happened to drive by.
And that's exactly what happened to poor
Yeah.
Diane Ruiz. I mean, she was walking to work.
And, I talk to men in my life as well. And don't get me wrong, I don't keep people around me that don't think women deserve to have rights,
Mhm.
basically. But just not having lived that experience of, if you're walking around, you gotta have your head on a swivel.
Yeah.
You have to be rude to strangers when they're asking you for directions and stuff. And it's like, yeah, in the moment, maybe it does make me a bitch, but at least
Mhm.
I'm a living bitch now,
That's just it.
Whereas a lot of men will never have that experience. Will never walk down a dark alley and think twice about it. Whereas like we're like full on tactical mode,
Yeah.
just trying to get home from work or to work or
Yeah.
whatever else have you, right? And then you get some monster like Wade Wilson that just happens to skitter up out of nowhere.
And then you have women who are like, "Oh, that's fine. I
Yeah.
like him."
And that's why I don't fuck with those women, because you're letting the team
You
down.
are, girls. Absolutely not. The one thing I will not agree with that the subreddit is now doing
Mm,
is they're trying to dox a lot of these women
mm-mm.
and
Don't do that,
find
guys.
their like jobs and stuff and basically like say, "Hey, this woman works for you. She supports a serial killer, blah, 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 blah." I don't necessarily agree with that.
No,
I
I
don't
don't
think we
either.
should be publicly shaming anyone that is supporting him either. But I do appreciate that they're pointing the facts out. They're showing very real evidence in the form of testimony, police reports, things like that, that are
Yeah.
saying this is why this person is bad and this is why you are wrong.
Absolutely. And to make it very simple again, if you think this guy might be the next love of your life, seek therapy.
Yeah, because he's not. And the other thing too,
No.
going back to the donations and the
Yes.
quote unquote rewards, they have said he's basically talking to anyone who is willing to talk to him. He is talking to men, he's talking to women, he's talking to anybody who's willing to pay him attention and pay him money.
Mhm.
And he is not against sexually talking to men either.
Yep.
He's willing to talk to whoever he wants to, or whoever wants to talk to him, as long as they're willing to pay him. So if you're speaking to a man like this and you think, oh, I am the only one, or he really likes me, has nothing to do with you, girlfriend.
No.
And that's what his ex-girlfriend said on TikTok in the video that I mentioned the last time we talked about him, is he's going to charm you.
Yep.
But don't be stupid enough to give him your money.
Yeah, don't do that, you guys.
You can spend your money on so many other things that are better.
100%. And you know what? Go down to the local McDonald's, get yourself a QP&Chi, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Don't send money to Wade Wilson in prison, please.
Drop it down a fucking sewer.
Yeah, go get yourself
anything.
a Frosty or something.
Yeah, don't know. And it really doesn't seem like he needs your money either, because he has a lot of it right now.
Yeah.
And that's going to run out. I really do. I think people will possibly lose interest in him. However, we still have women that are writing to Chris Watts. We still have women that are writing to Scott Peterson. You know what I mean? Like there's always going to be people who support these people. And whether that is foolishness or, manipulation, I don't know, but I will never truly understand it.
Well, we'll cover it at some point, because there's a couple of famous ladies out there that have had relationships with multiple serial killers and prolific nasties in prison. They're out there, and sometimes they make it their entire career, basically.
They do, and we are planning an episode where we do just talk about that, because there is one famous lady who we'll get into who had a serial killer boyfriend, or I think they were actually married, and then she left him for a more famous serial killer, which I mean, like, holy crap.
That's kind of hilarious.
It is pretty funny, yeah. But I honestly, it's something I'll never understand, which is exactly why I do want to talk about it. I found a few different papers about it that explore kind of the psychology behind all of that.
I love that.
Yeah.
I like, one of the reasons why I like the subject matter we talk about so much is that I like to know what makes people tick. Why do people do the things they do? And now, just speaking about the obsession, the love, the romance with serial killers, immediate, I'm like, what's the psychology?
Yeah.
What traumatic daddy issues do you have
Right?
that is making you go after this particular kind of individual? Like, I need to know the cogs that are turning in your head that are not turning in mine.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that, like, people in prison do deserve to find someone if that's what they want. But I mean, there's a big difference between, oh, I'm talking to someone who stole something or, did white collar crimes or whatever. Yeah. And then looking at, oh, I'm going to talk to this guy. He killed 2 ladies and he like sexually assaulted a whole bunch more. Like, what are you doing?
It's one thing. Yeah. If you're, in prison for petty crime or fucking dealing weed or what, I don't care. Like you say, everyone is deserving of love and interaction with people. However, if you are in prison for actively murdering and assaulting women, you should just never get to speak to women ever again, period. It's like, if you're a notorious, I don't know, dog killer, you don't get to be around dogs ever again.
There you go.
Do you know what I mean? It just shouldn't be allowed. The thing that triggers you should never be around you ever again. If you're a serial stabber, obviously we're not going to leave you in a room full of knives. Like, it just, I don't know, make it make sense.
It won't.
I guess.
But I mean, I don't think we're going to have any other updates regarding Wade Wilson for a little while now.
Not unless something wildly drastic changes.
Exactly. So this may be the last time that we talk about him for quite a while. And if we do have updates, we'll share them again on Extra Credit.
Of course.
But I kind of hope, like I said, he just fizzles out. Everyone gets bored of him. They stop sending him money.
Yep.
And he is just left there to rot until his day comes. I don't think that's what's going to happen, but I hope it is.
I agree. And we'll leave it at that. Bye, Wade Wilson.
Bye-bye.
Toodaloo, motherfucker.
And even though we did a bit of a different format this week, this is still an episode of Extra Credit.
Yes.
So I have a strange and unusual death for you.
Ooh.
Today's strange and unusual death takes us all the way back to the year 581 BC.
Oh, the good old days.
With Duke Jing of Jin.
Oh.
So a shaman warned him that he would not live to see the new wheat harvest. He dismissed him and had the shaman murdered.
Classic.
However, the Duke was going to go eat some wheat, and he felt the need to go to the bathroom. He went into the bathroom, he fell through the hole and drowned.
Oh, by killing that shaman, he for sure cursed himself.
100%.
That was self-fulfilling prophecy, and you cannot tell me anything else. I am sad for the shaman, though. He was like, bro, I'm telling you, you need to be careful because you're not going to live to see the next wheat harvest. And he was like, shows what you think, murder you.
Yeah, that was just his job.
And then he fell in a shithole and died.
Yep, not a good way to go.
Karma misses nothing.
You're not wrong there, my friend. You are not wrong there. All right, everyone. We've got Jody Arias, the finale coming up.
We do. Part 3.
Yes. Then we have a very special interview happening the week after.
Yeah.
Charlotte will be getting the week off. She's still going to be stuck editing my voice, though.
Yeah, it's not stuck. I like editing. You shut up.
I'm going to be interviewing a very dear friend of mine named Wayne McDonald. He is one of the leading Titanic experts in Canada, and I am very, very excited to have him on the show. He has sadly been diagnosed with terminal cancer, and his time is very, very short that he has left, and he has agreed to come sit down and talk with me about his life's work.
I am so excited to listen.
I cannot wait. It's going to be a wonderful time. I went to a Titanic themed party for him last night. It was a big show.
If you haven't seen the pictures on Twitter, your outfit was fire.
Thank you.
So cool.
Thank you. We had a great time. We did some giveaways with Titanic memorabilia, which was really cool.
That is so cool.
Yep. There were Titanic shaped ice cubes and iceberg shaped ice cubes in the drinks. It was honestly just wonderful.
I love it.
I'm really looking forward to having him on the show. He not only has one of the biggest collections that is privately owned, he also knew multiple survivors.
Amazing.
His father knew some survivors, which is how he got involved with everything. And I cannot wait to share his story. I definitely recommend listening to our Titanic series.
One of my favorites we've ever done, to be honest. And
mine too.
A little different than the usual topics we cover. I mean, obviously still very, very sad.
Yes.
But more historical, and it's one of Dina's very, very special interests.
Very much so.
Did we do 5 parts?
I believe it was 5 parts.
Yeah, so there's plenty of content. If you
Yes.
love the Titanic and this is the first time you're hearing of us talk about it, please go listen because you will enjoy yourself.
And I will say, because it's obviously us, the final episode that we did was about Titanic conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
So yeah, check it out.
Yeah, and stay tuned because I'm so excited to hear what Wayne has to say because I'm sure that man has stories of abundance.
He really, really does. And a lot of those stories come directly from survivors.
Amazing.
So pretty cool stuff. Other than that, make sure that you subscribe to us on Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very excited.
Yeah. So what was that? Sunday the 15th. Stay tuned. 2 p.m. MST.
Yeah.
We'll probably release some details as we get closer, kind of what we plan on doing and stuff. But yeah, first live stream coming up.
Yeah, I cannot wait.
Mm-hmm.
We're also, of course, on all of the social media stuff. So make sure that you follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And check out the Patreon, where we have video versions of the episodes, as well as early episode reveals for free members. You can do a week-long trial for the paid content and check it out. And it's a good time.
It is a good time. So all that being said, thank you so much for listening once again. This has been the Grim Curriculum.
Extra credit.
Bye.